Sarah immediately called Yoon Hao, but Yoon Hao said he was at work. Hearing this, Sarah made another call. Yoon Hao didn't pay much attention to it, but soon, a girl came to him and said, "Your boss called for you." He tried to explain that he was at work, but then the girl directly said that the shop would be closing today. Yoon Hao and the shopkeeper were completely surprised when they heard that his boss had bought the shop. Sitting at the dinner table with Sarah, Yoon Hao thought that Sarah was upset again because of those old men, but Sarah explained that this time it was because of her family. Her birthday party, which she thought she was included in, had nothing to do with her. Yoon Hao nervously said, "I saw your ID. Your birthday wasn't today." Sarah quickly clarified, "My real birthday is different from what's on the ID." Yoon Hao kept this in his mind. He called the waitstaff and asked to pay the bill. Sarah refused, but Yoon Hao insisted on his point. That evening, when Sarah left work, Yoon Hao was waiting outside near her office. Sarah felt a bit strange that Yoon Hao was being so proactive, but then Yoon Hao pulled out a birthday cake. He thought that Sarah hadn't had cake on her birthday, and he wanted to make it up to her. When Sarah saw Yoon Hao with the cake and candle, she felt a strange warmth inside. Sarah said, "I received a flower on my birthday." Yoon Hao was shocked to hear this, and his expression became even more complicated. Sarah took a deep breath and felt like she understood Yoon Hao's emotions. Without saying anything further, Sarah turned around and walked away. Yoon Hao stood holding the cake, as if he had been rejected. Back at the office, Sarah didn't react the usual way. She didn't get anxious, cry, or feel sad. Instead, she joined her hands and prayed, as if she was wishing for Yoon Hao back. Yoon Hao, still unable to understand Sarah's rejection, kept turning her words over in his mind. Passing by a flower shop, he couldn't resist his curiosity. He asked the shopkeeper which flower had the flower language. Coming happiness. The shopkeeper showed him calendula, golden marigold, and said that this flower had another meaning: compassionate love and sadness of separation. At that moment, Sarah was also looking at the same flower and reading the same meaning. Then one day, Sarah saw Yoon Hao coming to meet her again, and in his hand was that same golden marigold. As soon as Sarah approached him, Yoon Hao extended the flower toward her. Sarah's hope quickly turned into disappointment. Yoon Hao's gesture was so painful for her because she understood that his kindness was actually hurting her even more. This time, Sarah didn't waste any more time, turned around, but Yoon Hao said something. Sarah gave him a deep look. Yoon Hao was still confused. Maybe for some time, his feelings for Sarah had changed, but this change was very difficult for him, and he decided he would cross this hurdle himself. An unexpected guest arrived at Sarah's office today. He was a man who had intentionally come to give Sarah a special message. His name was Choi Ki-ho, who was going back to South Korea. When Sarah heard this, her face became quite complex. Sarah knew that despite being born to her father and his ex-wife, she was a contender for the inheritance. But her brother, Hugh Zai-yu, who was the real grandson of Yoon Hao, the son of Chairman Lin, was more eligible. Now, if Sarah had to compete with her brother, she would need some external support. And Choi Ki-ho was that support, which had been discussed earlier for marriage. Sarah felt that this marriage was just a business deal. But now that Yoon Hao had entered her life, she was confused. If she didn't marry, she would lose the inheritance fight with her brother. But if she married, what would happen to Yoon Hao? Looking at the calendula flower in her office, Sarah gathered the courage from within. She immediately called Yoon Hao. Yoon Hao was at church at that moment, talking to the priest about his feelings. The priest told him that maybe if he wore the priest's robe, he would find answers to his decisions. Yoon Hao took the priest's advice and began walking toward the church entrance in the priest's robe. At that moment, Sarah also arrived at the church, and seeing Yoon Hao made her heart soften a little. She thought maybe Yoon Hao had made his decisions, and now he was ready. Sarah watched Yoon Hao as he came down the stairs, and tears filled her eyes. Yoon Hao realized that Sarah needed to understand, but at that moment, Sarah stopped listening. Yoon Hao followed Sarah and arrived at her house. Sarah felt like he was trying to justify his actions, but Yoon Hao said, "I know you're married. Your fiancé is Choi Ki-ho." Sarah's face changed instantly, because, while she was indeed in a relationship with her fiancé, she had never shared her true feelings. At that moment, Choi Ki-ho also entered. He was Sarah's fiancé, and with his royal attitude, he looked at both of them. Sarah knew that this wasn't the time to talk, so she told Yoon-hao to leave. Choi Ki-ho, entering and showing his dominance, reminded Sarah that everything was business to him. He told her that he had a weak point about Su Zayu. Sarah thought this information might be important. Sarah went to see her brother, Su Zayu, and looked at the medical records Choi Ki-ho had given. Su Zayu had serious face blindness after an accident. If Sarah had to do something, this could be a fatal flaw. But when Sarah realized this, she took a stand against Choi Ki-ho. Sarah then changed her stance in both business and personal life. Choi Ki-ho didn't like this change, and in anger, he threw money on the road. Sarah felt a bit of hatred seeing this. At that moment, Sarah decided to invite Yoon-hao on a date. But when Yoon-hao saw a brand new bag in the shop, he slightly ignored Sarah's invitation. But Sarah took out her black card and bought all the high-end bags. Then both Yoon-hao and Sarah went to a small street stall. Sarah's mood was still a bit mixed, but her heart had softened a little. Something old and new was blending together. Sarah's mind was a bit sad as she thought that Yoon-hao had now become a priest. So she was trying to show her emotions very casually. When Yoon-hao noticed her behavior, he directly said to her. Sarah softly replied that she was a bad and fake woman, and she just wanted them to remain friends. Yoon-hao smiled a little, and Sarah just kept looking at him. Sarah told everyone at her family's banquet about her decision. She openly told everyone that she would not marry Choi Ki-ho, as she didn't love him at all. Sarah's father supported her decision, and happily stood by her side. Had already known that Sarah's decision wasn't just about not marrying Choi Ki-ho, but also about secretly doing something against her brother. This revelation lightened everyone's hearts, and the wedding obstacle was removed. Sarah and her brother were leaving the house. It was the first time Sarah had genuinely called her brother and expressed her decisions. She didn't need to fight her brother for the inheritance, as she had something else in her heart. Another good decision. A few days later, Choi Ki-ho found out the wedding was off. He angrily went to Sarah's office. Sarah stood calmly and told him that she wanted to break the marriage. Got very angry and said, "I was only helping you because I thought you were helpless." But when Sarah didn't respond, Choi Ki-ho held back his anger and left the office. Sarah quietly looked at Yoon-ha, who was still firm in his decision. Sarah's face had a smile. Her decision was absolutely right. Yoon-ha went home and talked to his family after a long time, who had previously opposed his decision to become a priest, supported him now. Yoon-ha felt a bit uneasy as he found the moment uncomfortable. He said nothing and went to his room. His parents didn't say anything, but his sister understood everything. His sister immediately asked Yoon-ha if he was in a relationship with someone. She showed a lot of curiosity and bothered Yoon-ha. A luxury car stopped near Yoon-ha and his sister. His sister saw the car and then noticed a beautiful woman getting out of it. Yoon-ha chose such a beautiful girl for himself. Sarah thought that her brother would leave Yoon-ha, so she felt a little worried. But he had a good time with Sarah in the car. They made their relationship official and went out for dinner. They discussed their future plans. Yoon-ha said that now that he wasn't becoming a priest, finding another job. When Sarah heard that Yoon-ha was thinking about becoming a judge, she was a little shocked, as judicial exams in South Korea are very difficult. But Yoon-ha smiled and told her that he had graduated from the law department of Seoul University, so it was quite feasible for him. Sarah realized that this was why Yoon-ha's family didn't want him to become a priest, because it's hard for any family to accept such a career choice for their child. Sarah offered to drop Yoon-ha off at home. They talked about meeting each other's parents, and Yoon-ha felt that seeing Sarah's family's status might put a lot of pressure on him. When Sarah came out to drop Yoon-ha, she said, but he finally decided to drop Sarah off. The next day, when Sarah went to pick Yoon-ha up from school, a classmate caught her attention. Sarah initially wanted to ignore him, but seeing Yoon-ha, the classmate became a little jealous. Sarah noticed that Yoon-ha didn't like his jealousy anymore. Sarah understood that during this time, their relationship had shifted. Now Yoon-ha was feeling possessive about Sarah, and Sarah thought that misunderstandings could arise in the future. So she decided to take a day off to give Yoon-ha some space and visit his house. When Sarah went to Yoon-ha's house, she directly told his parents that they needed to talk about their profession. This was going to shock them. But Sarah's aim was to show Yoon-ha that their relationship was no longer just between them, but had become a formal commitment. Sarah and Yoon-ha's lives became more comfortable and relaxed, and they were solving the pressure between their families first before solving it between themselves. They started spending time together in their own world and now they weren't afraid of anything. And with that, this story ends. Hope you like this dream. Subscribe for more.